desperately unmusical. He's absolutely furious. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Music Professor channel. Happy New Year! This is the first video of 2026. That's very exciting. Loki, are you excited about this? Are you excited? Loki's wearing his green Christmas jumper, and you can see that he's also wearing a red bow tie, especially for the occasion. Loki, what do you think? I thought we might talk about Leonard Bernstein today. Do you like that? You like Leonard Bernstein, don't you? So today is a sort of reaction video, and hopefully a fun one. I'm going to be looking at some footage of Leonard Bernstein rehearsals. Bernstein, I mean, he's somebody I admire enormously. He's an extraordinary musician, incredible communicator, very talented composer. But he could be quite difficult in rehearsal. And what we're going to look at today is some famous examples, and you've probably seen them yourselves. But it'd be fun just to have a giggle about them. And before we get going with that, if you like the channel, please like and subscribe and press the little bell if you want notifications. And then you can know about all the exciting things that go on the channel. There are lots of quizzes and extra posts, and also plenty of shorts that come out now. So please join the wonderful community that supports the channel and sustains us. And if you really like what we're doing, please consider donating to the channel, because we really do need your donations. These videos are free of charge, and therefore it's really helpful to us if we can have some financial support to keep us going, because it's a big endeavour. It's an important endeavour, making music accessible to a large audience, and we're delighted to be doing it, but your donations would be gratefully received. So without more ado, let's get going with Bernstein, and we'll look at the first clip. So my wonderful collaborator Ian has chosen the sequence of clips, and although I kind of know what we're in store for, I haven't watched the clips for a while. I'm just going to be responding off the cuff to what you see on the screen. So let's get going with the first one. Okay, so I'm just looking at the still from the beginning of the video. This, I think, is a video of Bernstein doing a masterclass, a conducting masterclass quite late in his career. He's looking relatively elderly, and there's a young conductor who's rehearsing what looks like a youth orchestra. So maybe we'll try and put the details as far as we can ascertain what they are in the video description, but that's what I think is going on. Let's see what happens. So the young guy who's conducting is he's got his hands ready to go, and I'm just going to press play. Here we go.
F, please.
The moral is don't stop unless you really have something to say.
Well, this is what I heard.
Okay, so actually we don't really entirely know the context here, but he's obviously stopped the orchestra, and Bernstein's having a bit of a go. So it's quite funny because Bernstein is wearing this, what is it? It's like a kind of pale pink shirt. He's unbuttoned the shirt, sort of down, almost down to his navel. I mean, this is the sort of thing that Bernstein liked to do. So we can all see his chest to some degree. And he's also wearing dark glasses. And clearly, you know, he's very much modelling the cool conductor persona. And he says, what does he say to the poor guy?
F, please.
The moral is don't stop unless you really have something to say.
Well, this is what I heard. Maybe it was wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, it happens with young conductors all the time, and it's not.
I have a feeling that, so it's impossible to know. The young conductor looked a little bit as if he was challenging Bernstein's statement, possibly a mistake, because you don't want to go head to head with Bernstein in this situation. Bernstein's accusing the young conductor of stopping and not really having anything to say, and then he tries to justify himself. Okay, let's see what happens.
What I heard, maybe it was wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, it happens with young conductors all the time, and it's nothing to be ashamed of.
No.
I was a young conductor too, so I can speak from experience that there are times when you get confused or lost, or you're not sure if it's the first time or the second time, or is this the G major one or the B flat, and so you stop. But very rarely do you say, I stopped because I mixed up. That would be wonderful. Well, and all these kids here will love you if you say that. Well, but if you invent something, the reason to stop, which covers up the truth, they are also very sensitive. We all get it, we kids down here.
No, when I mix
We
up...
know when you're bullshitting us.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting because Bernstein's making a case, and any conductors who are watching the channel, let me know your thoughts about it. The fascinating thing with conducting is it's so hard because you are meant to be creating some kind of interpretation of the score, and if you're really good, that interpretation is in itself, and Bernstein's a very famous example of this, that interpretation, think about Bernstein's famous recording of Mahler 5, the performance itself has an almost canonical status. So a really great conductor can create a version of a piece of music. That's one of the things that conductors do. They create versions of the masterpiece that belongs to them. It's Mahler's, but it's also Bernstein's. So that's one aspect of conducting that's very fascinating. But in the process of trying to create that interpretation, you have to win over the orchestra. You have to convince them that your version is a good one, and they have to respect you. On some level, they've got to respect you. Now, obviously, Bernstein, he's been doing it for years. He's very, very famous, and to some extent, he's going to be respected anyway for those reasons. But the point he seems to be making to this young guy is stop the orchestra. And Bernstein's saying, you just stopped them because you got confused. And you're trying to cover it up. You're trying to find something to say to them. And the poor guy is saying, no, there was a reason. But whether or not there was, it's one of these things where we don't really know what the truth is. Whether or not there was, Bernstein's kind of doubling down and saying, no, you didn't have a reason, and you should just fess up and tell the orchestra you got in a muddle, because they'll love you for it. Is that true? I mean, I think orchestras, I like the fact that he's emphasising a kind of humility, and he's saying we need to be honest as musicians. And generally speaking, I think he's right. If you're a conductor, an orchestra should be able to respect you if you just admit that you've got things wrong, but orchestras can be quite cruel, actually. Those of you playing in an orchestra or conductors, let me know what your thoughts about this. It's very interesting. I think that Bernstein's probably right, because truth ultimately is important, and we respect people who tell us the truth. Okay, let's look at the next video. It looks as if this comes from... Sorry.
The tenor soloist is René Collo, and the alto, seen now at their first rehearsal.
This is clearly a BBC video originally, an excerpt from a BBC show, presumably from the 1970s or perhaps early 80s. The reason why I know that is because I can hear the voice of Humphrey Burton there, who's just died. He died a couple of weeks ago, so bless him. He was an absolute mainstay of BBC music when I grew up, and a huge figure of music broadcasting at that time. It looks to me, just looking at the picture, I think Bernstein is conducting an orchestra, and I believe it's the Israeli Philharmonic. And the soloist is Christa Ludwig, who was a legendary performer. I mean, amazing mezzo, who, for example, recorded the wonderful Waltraute part in Götterdämmerung with George Scholti. That would have been a little before this. She was one of Herbert von Karajan's favourite singers too. And they're about to do a movement from Das Lied von der Erde, Mahler's famous song cycle stroke symphony, or unnumbered symphony. There's some debate about Das Lied von der Erde, or whether he simply didn't number it because he was superstitious about the number 9, because it was Beethoven's number, and if you get to 9 you die, which in his case happened because he finished his 9th symphony and he never finished his 10th. Anyway, Das Lied von der Erde, which is this marvellous song cycle. But the problem with Das Lied von der Erde, and I think this is an issue in this recording, in this rehearsal, is that Mahler, bless him, great genius though he was not necessarily particularly generous to vocalists. He would often, and particularly in this piece, overwhelm them with orchestral elements. I mean, for a great orchestrator, it's amazing that he sometimes miscalculates, as I think he does in this instance. I'd like to know your thoughts about this, but I personally think the orchestration is simply too heavy for the voice, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Because it's not like we're listening to a minor singer here who's just not up to the job. We're listening to one of the best voices in the world at that time. So let's see what happens.
This is so much slower than I ever do it. The inner schneller comes here. We haven't even come to that.
So Christa is making the point that it's too fast and she can't get the text out properly. And Bernstein's sort of saying, there's nothing I can do about this. It's the tempo that we're doing it. And I think we'll find that subsequently he's not going to relax the tempo, even though she's asked him to, which I don't know. I think he could have done something. I think he could have just taken it a shade slower. But that's not who he is. Leonard Bernstein does it the tempo he wants to do it. Interesting to watch him conduct the orchestra, just the rehearsal aspects of it. There's something very charismatic, isn't there? Whenever you look at footage of Bernstein, the way that he gestures at the orchestra is, it's kind of funny. It's also very, very communicative. You really know what he wants. Marvellous. With just a few gestures, he makes them play the way he wants them to play. Right, let's see what happens next.
Before 14, please. 5 bars.
He's a bit fed up. So you can see, you always often get this with Bernstein when he's a little bit stressed, as we often do, don't we? We run our hand through our hair. He's a bit stressed because the vocalist, well, in front of the orchestra, has suggested that the tempo is impossible, and I think that's pissing him off, frankly. Incidentally, I should say, in terms of all these clips, there's an orchestra and cameras that are witness to the event, and that adds a whole other dimension to the discussion, doesn't it? It creates a kind of the potential for humiliation of one of the characters in the situation, and that will come up particularly later on, because whatever it is that Bernstein's going to be saying to them, it's in public, which is really not easy to deal with.
3, 4.
Yeah, so the tempo is exactly the same. She's really frustrated because she simply can't get the words out. Bernstein stopped the orchestra.
It doesn't matter, nobody knows, who can hear the words anyway.
That is a bizarre thing to say. He says it doesn't matter anyway who can hear the words. It's impossible to hear the words anyway. So, okay, there's something in what he's saying, and that's partly Mahler. Well, that is actually Mahler's fault, that the orchestra is shrieking around. The singer is not singing in a particularly audible part of her register, her vocal register, and it's really hard to get the text to speak with all those shrieking woodwind. And he's saying, well, the text doesn't matter anyway, you can't hear. I think that's quite a problematic thing to say, since a song is partly about communicating. Any song is partly about communicating text, isn't it?
The main thing is to hear high, do an octave higher. Hey!
It's curiously cavalier instructions. He's saying, sing it up an octave if you need to. Bizarre. You can see by Christa Ludwig's body language that she's not very comfortable. She doesn't feel, she's not really happy to go along with what he's suggested.
The same thing, one more time. This is always impossible. Nobody can be heard in this. 5 before 14.
I mean, he's partly acknowledging a problem with Mahler here, but I don't think it's really good enough just to say, oh, well, it always happens. I think that it's better to try and find a solution, isn't it? I don't think he's trying very hard. And I think behind it all, there's a sort of defensiveness because he doesn't like the fact that Christa Ludwig has queried his judgment.
Yeah, the same place.
She's holding her arms out. She's just not happy. Now, his voice is now at a slower tempo, able to open out, and sounds great. It's an interesting case where both the conductor and the composer, Mahler, great conductor-composer, just like Bernstein. I mean, not just like Bernstein. I think Mahler was a greater composer, actually, but they're both at fault. Let's look at the next extract. Okay, so the next extract is the famous, slightly disagreeable recording session with the BBC Symphony Orchestra. I remember watching this on a BBC show in the 1980s, and it was quite uncomfortable viewing because you could tell that during the rehearsal, Bernstein and the orchestra were just not getting on very well. He starts out by making the point that he's not worked with the BBC Symphony before this recording. I mean, he worked regularly with the LSO, but not with the BBC SO. And they start working on the Enigma variations together, and it's just a bit awkward. I think Bernstein's personality, slightly abrasive personality, rubs them up the wrong way, and they just don't get on. And I think there's a slightly territorial feeling about the piece, because of course Enigma Variations is a British piece and the orchestra's a British orchestra. In fact, the BBC were the commissioners of Elgar's Third Symphony in 1934, so there's even a strong connection there between the BBC itself and Elgar. And I think they're slightly taking issue with this American coming in and imposing his version of the piece, and it becomes a bit problematic, particularly with Nimrod, I remember, which he takes fantastically slow. So interestingly, the recording, if you listen to it, Bernstein's famous recording with the BBC Symphony Orchestra, is actually rather good. It's interesting because it's a recording which seems to have flowed out of this tension. It could be that Bernstein, the rather brilliant conductor that he was, wanted that tension in order to generate what is in fact almost, you might describe it almost as an electrifying recording. I mean, it's very exciting to listen to.
I know ambiance and everything, but let me just hear your crescendo diminuendo bar. Well, the bar before. 3.
Okay, so this is like a sectional with the trumpet section. Let's see what he has to say to them.
You know, the 2 eighth notes, the 2 quavers. Right. It's not enough underneath people.
So this is a passage where the trumpets are having to play in triads, climbing up C minor, and go down to that lovely Elgarian subdominant with an added 6th. And the trumpets look a little bit, they look a bit defensive, don't they?
It sounds like a trumpet solo.
Looking at his watch.
From the preceding 2 eighths. 3. Look, yeah, that's not well in tune either. So, that's better. That's better. Okay. 3. Now, all singing. Good. Now, if you could all have a sound in the crescendo like him, not brassy, you see that gets, it should be whoa, 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 whoa. I know it's very low. It's too low to achieve that.
Shaking head.
But I know you could do it.
The principal.
Don't shake the head, you can do it. Come on, the same place.
Change our sound.
What?
What different type of sound would you like us to have?
Not.
I don't think we ever did that.
Pardon?
Ooh.
That's the way it's
Try
coming.
not to do that.
He doesn't.
Oh, so this is really pissing off the trumpet players, because Bernstein is suggesting that they're playing a wee trumpet sound rather than a haw, a warm trumpet sound, I guess. It seems highly subjective, this kind of discussion about the sound they're making. And it doesn't help that he's framing it in those terms. And they think that they're kind of legitimately querying what he's talking about, because they're saying they've been making the same sound, and they're used to blending together. So it's a tense moment.
Well, we follow him.
Well, it's strange. It doesn't sound like it's being so dry. Try it again.
It's fine, okay.
From the preceding two quavers. Now, with this crescendo open, like... That's much better. It really, don't you hear the difference? It's beautiful.
He said no, Classic. I mean, it was different in that they did more of a crescendo. I think it did sound better. It's a trick that I've noticed with Bernstein when he rehearses, that he'll often make people feel a bit uncomfortable about the way they've played it, and then when he instructs them to play it again, he sort of goes, yeah, you've got it. It's a sort of psychological game partly, but yeah, I think that they're reluctant to admit that they've done anything better. I don't know how I feel about this. I think it probably is, from a psychological point of view, quite good to put a section like this through their paces a bit. The trouble is, the way Bernstein's doing it, it's all quite flaky. Let me know what you think, particularly if you're a trumpet player.
Much better. It really, don't you hear the difference?
No.
It's beautiful. You don't.
It's,
all right.
It's beautiful. Well, we've heard that in more recent discourse, that term.
17.
Oh, what did he say then?
You don't. All right. 17.
He said something like, it's desperately unmusical. Desperately unmusical. He's absolutely furious.
17. Okay, let's go on.
Right, serious tensions there. I mean, and that's in the 1980s when players perhaps were less happy to answer back than they are now. But there's some serious controversy in the orchestra there. Okay, well, the next clip is Berlioz's Romeo and Juliet. And this is a rehearsal with what looks like a youth orchestra. It's an elderly Bernstein, I mean, in his final decade, I would imagine. I'm sure some of you, my clever audience, will know exactly what this is. And please feel free to fill us in on any of the essential information that I haven't been able to ascertain. So here we go. It's Berlioz, who is, of course, one of the great 19th century masters of orchestration and did wonderful things with the orchestra. I mean, you only have to look at a piece like, for example, the famous Symphony Fantastique, very young masterpiece of Berlioz, but in that piece he completely reinvented the orchestra, and it is radical and revolutionary as the Rite of Spring was in the 20th century. I mean, the orchestra is simply reimagined. So Berlioz, a great genius of the orchestra. Romeo and Juliet is his third symphony, I think, because you get Symphony Fantastique, then you get Harold in Italy, which is also marvellous and has a viola solo, obligato viola part, which isn't really concerto-like, but it's magnificent. And then the third symphony is Romeo and Juliet, which has all sorts of choral bits and really doesn't behave like a conventional symphony at all. None of Berlioz's symphonies do. Okay, so this is a triangle passage from the symphony.
We have a new member of the orchestra. Rudiger is playing. So we have two triangles. Now, let me hear taking it up from two triangles.
Two triangles on the rhythm.
One. No, it has to be taking it up. The same rhythm that...
So he's wanting a precise dug-a-da-dub rhythm, a triplet and a long note.
They've been playing. Everybody plays so well. Taking it up. One. It's better. It's a little better. Should really be 15 triangles going, taking it up, but we can't do that. We're lucky to have two. Can you make it somehow more rhythmic so it's not just a clink? So it's taking it up. I don't know where, but play higher on the triangle and taking it up. I'm not a triangle specialist. One. No, it sounds like the doorbell. I mean, it just could be anything. Just, taking it up.
He's getting a bit cross now.
I don't know how to tell you to do it, but do it. One. Yeah, it's worse. It's worse. Well, congratulations.
Oh, it's a little bit mean. So you got these young players and they're trying to get that triplet rhythm, and I'm not sure what the problem is. It does sound a bit of a mess. Funny that his instructions there don't really help, because all he does is make them feel slightly belittled. And he's funny, but it doesn't help them, does it? Dum. I'm not sure what you do as a triangle player to get that to work. Triangulists out there, percussionists I should say, give me your thoughts about this. Is he right about playing higher up on the triangle? I'd be interested to know. The truth is that conductors, and this is one of the problems that a conductor faces, is you often don't really have the solution, because as a conductor, you're a mere amateur. You don't actually know the instrument that you're dealing with. You don't know the trumpet, which was the problem in the previous excerpt. How do you get the sound that he's after? He doesn't have a technical description of what to do. All he can do is say what's wrong with it, but he can't really offer and it'd be the same with any conductor. It's somewhat the same here. He doesn't really know how to help them get it right, but they don't get it right. Okay, and here's our final excerpt, and I've kept this till last. This is the famous case when José Carreras is trying to sing in the legendary recording of West Side Story, which Bernstein did, I think, in the 1980s with an orchestra that was sort of put together for the occasion in New York. I think it was New York. And the trouble was, okay, there's a sort of issue, I think, around Bernstein again. I mean, hasn't there been an issue around Bernstein with all these excerpts on some level? The problem here was that I think he himself had a slightly unrealistic view of the cast that he wanted for West Side Story. He should have gone for the very best singers that could perform comfortably in a musical theatre type of setting. But what he does instead is he goes for famous opera stars, and not necessarily ones who are particularly fluent in English. And that seems to me to be a significant mistake. And Carreras, he's gone for this brilliant young tenor, or the wonderful voice, who has some difficulties with rhythm. That's not untypical of people with wonderful voices. You can have a wonderful voice, but you're not necessarily very good at keeping in time. And we'll see the problem as it emerges here.
He's only just out of reach, down the block, on a beach, under a tree. I got a feeling there's a miracle due, gonna come true, coming to me. Could it be? Yes, it could. Something's coming, something good. If I can wait, something coming, I don't know what it is, but it is gonna be great.
Don't know why Bernstein's covering his eyes.
With a click, with a shock, funnel jingle, open the line.
You're ahead of me. Pepe, watch me, not the music. And if you make a mistake, we'll go back. Right? You know this. When you look at the music, you sing wrong words. Just look at me.
And the trouble is, and this is a classic case, if you make the person feel uncomfortable in the session, they're going to get tense inevitably, and then they're not going to sing as well, and they're going to make more and more mistakes. So it seems to me that this is a situation where Bernstein's got locked into a sort of self-defeating loop with Carreras, and they're just not going to get the solution. And it's really odd that he covers his face, he winces, he's really making no pretense that Carreras is adequate. It's quite weird. There are obviously some problems. Carreras isn't nailing it in terms of the rhythm of the music, and to some extent he's not really nailing it in terms of the words. Bernstein doesn't address that, but you sense that that's part of the problem.
Jose? Coming. Coming. What I'm saying, calming.
John, please don't do this. Don't give elocution lessons over the microphone, okay?
Okay, I mean that's pretty unacceptable, isn't it? You're rebuking the guy in the control booth for giving him a perfectly sensible piece of elocution coaching. And the guy in the booth is clearly not happy about being rebuked in that way, and I wouldn't be either. And then look, Carreras is looking terrified. And the fact is, what comes across here is that Bernstein was not always a very nice guy, was he? I think that's pretty evident in this clip. My goodness.
Here we go.
32, bar 32, come on.
Please.
Call it.
Okay, stand by, everybody. Something's coming. Take 130.
I don't have numbers, Maestro. I'm sorry about that.
I'll sing it for you. Come to me.
131.
Come to me.
Could it be? Yes, it could. Something's coming, something good. If I can wait, something coming.
You went to G major instead of F major.
Okay, so what was that? Let me see if I can demonstrate what that's all about. Yeah, well, so we're sort of we're in C major, and the vocal line here goes, and then we go into F major. Da ba da da ba da da da. So the orchestra's there. Carreras has something coming, which is a tone higher than it should be. That's it's a bit of an elementary mistake.
Good. Something's coming, something good. If I can wait, something coming.
You went to G major instead of F major. Also, if I can wait, you're not waiting. You're
Well, maybe we should break and listen to it.
Why not? Why not? Let's take a break.
Let's take 10.
I mean, it was quite bold of the guy in the booth to propose that after the way that Bernstein spoke to him a few seconds earlier. José's stepping down from the microphone looking pretty crestfallen, frankly. Okay, so now they're in the booth. Listen.
Just José. Come on, something, come on in. Don't shine, big guy.
Up a chair.
Up a chair.
Bernstein with his trademark cigarette in mouth, in the booth where everyone has to passively smoke with him.
Come in. Get it.
That's why I wanted to hear this. And unfortunately, the whole tenor of the situation is that poor Carreras is already, not feeling good, is having to be humiliated again in front of the recording team.
Now what?
I'm afraid we need a retake.
Yep.
So they're back in again.
Could it be? Yes, it could. Something's coming, something good. If I can wait, something's coming. I don't know what it is, but it is gonna be great. With a click, with a shock, funnel, jingle, doddle, knock. Open the latch. Something's coming, don't open.
That's the bit where it goes to G major, of course.
Getting ahead. Can we start on the G major something, the second ending, in other words? Bar 63.
Okay. Bar 63, take 135.
Something's coming, don't.
Right on it, huh?
Something's coming, don't know when, but it soon catch the moon, one-handed catch. Around the corner, or whistling down the river. Come on, believer, to me. Will it be? yes it will, maybe just by holding still.
He's just not on those syncopated rhythms. Da, da, da,
Okay, I think we've
da,
got-
da.
Have you got what you want? Yeah.
Carreras, you know, he's been brought up in the Italian opera tradition. He's not. This isn't his repertoire. He's not comfortable with those rhythms. He doesn't feel them naturally. It's not an untypical problem for people who aren't part of the culture of the music that they're performing, that they have difficulties. And in this case, severe rhythmic difficulties. And bless him, he's an amazing singer, but this is not his repertoire. Bernstein knows that. And I guess, you know, it's too late in the proceedings. He is to blame, though, for choosing Carreras to start with. He should really have thought through the options, but he was delighted at the prospect of having a young star sing his music. And there is another problem with West Side Story, that it is his great work. I'm sure Bernstein really knew that it was. He always hoped that he was a great symphonist, and he always hoped that his symphonic music was, you know, as good as Aaron Copland. The truth of the matter is, I don't think it is. The West Side Story is fantastic, and I think he kind of knew that it was and felt very sensitive about it. But he should have put together a team that was going to execute it properly. But then, that being the case, he should have just taken a bit more care choosing his vocalists. The orchestra, and you will have noticed it listening to that excerpt, sounds fabulous. I mean, I think the band are doing great work. And I can't say that Carreras isn't sounding good, he just is sounding uncomfortable all the time and rhythmically not really on it. So we've had a lot of interesting examples of Leonard Bernstein in rehearsal, and what comes across? A brilliant person, a charismatic musician, an amazing communicator, all the things that we know Leonard Bernstein to have been, but also somebody who was inclined to blame other people when things went wrong and could behave in a pretty nasty, petulant way on the podium. Not untypical for conductors. You know, it is famously a power issue, a power imbalance. The person on the podium has the power to humiliate people. They shouldn't do it, though. And it's kind of appalling when they do. And I think Bernstein runs the risk in a couple of those excerpts of doing something that isn't really good enough. I think he was a talented enough musician to steer a rehearsal more effectively than he does in those examples where he just loses control. He gets angry, he gets petulant, and then things just don't work. And who am I to coach Leonard Bernstein? But I do think that those famous clips are very revealing. Right, we've got a little bonus for you. Ian's thrown in a different conductor, but let's just have a quick look at it. This is Daniel Barenboim, and I think it looks like it's the Proms. Let's have a look. Beethoven 7. Barenboim's doing this. Oh, okay, that's it. That was bizarre. This is the bit in Beethoven 7, in the wonderful, famous Allegretto, where you get the oboe playing this very expressive... And it's got to sing over the full orchestra, and clearly Barenboim is sort of wanting... Actually, I'm not quite sure what he's wanting. I think he's wanting more eye contact from the oboist. And it sounds like he wants him to project more over the orchestral sound. Let's have another listen. He's doing that. He's doing that. He's getting frustrated. He's looking at... Yeah. Is that actually him just getting totally pissed off at the end and gesturing? What the hell? And he does that. And then he does that. And this is in front of the promenade audience. I mean, it doesn't sound to me as if the oboist is doing anything wrong. The oboist is playing beautifully, but he's not following Barenboim, or he's not looking at Barenboim. This is a classic case of a conductor getting power crazed, it seems to me. My wonderful community, let me know what you think. It could be that he has a point. There may be some issue that I'm missing, that the oboist does need to be looking at him. But as far as I can hear from this clip, it sounds fine. So why is Barenboim getting so cross? There's a bit of an ego issue, as so often in these cases. So there we go, lots of examples of slightly petulant behaviour on the podium. Let me know your thoughts about all of this, and also other examples of petulant behaviour that might be quite fun to cover on the channel. I'm looking forward to all your suggestions. Thanks for watching.